Hey, do you like books? I'm guessing you probably like to read. And look, sometimes, light reading is fine. You just want to read something diverting, but your time is valuable and limited. So you don't want to waste that time. You want to be exposed to great art. I teach great books for a living, so I know a thing or two about, I know some great books. I thought I could give you some recommendations. So I got a few of my favorite novels for you. I'm going to give you two contemporary-ish novels and one classic. That's what we'll do. So the first one is this novel. It's contemporary. It's about 20 years old now, which may seem like a long time. It's not a long time for me because I'm super old. But this is a cool book. It's a love story and a mystery novel, and also I think kind of a philosophical novel. Hey, so funny thing, I got so excited talking about this novel that I neglected to tell you what it's called and who wrote it. And, you can see the cover, but just so we're clear, this is Sputnik Sweetheart by Haruki Murakami, who is a Japanese novelist of great renown. It begins this way. In the spring of her 22nd year, Sumire fell in love for the first time in her life. An intense love, a veritable tornado sweeping across the plains, flattening everything in its path, tossing things up in the air, ripping them to shreds, crushing them to bits. Love like a tornado. So our protagonist in this novel is this young guy, Kei, and he is kind of secretly in love with this woman, Sumire. But Sumire enters into a relationship with this older woman who's also kind of her boss, and she falls head over heels in love with her. And then the kind of initiating action is that Kei receives this phone call from Sumire's boss to say that Sumire has gone missing. The two of them have gone on this trip to Greece together, and she calls Kei to say, I don't know where Sumire is. And so he goes to Greece to help his beloved's girlfriend find this person that they are both in love with. So it's kind of a mystery. There are all sorts of, there are kind of some weird elements. There's doppelgangers in this novel. Everything I'm going to recommend has a supernatural element. It's weird. What does that say about me? I think I tend to be drawn to novels that are weird. I enjoy novels that kind of dwell on the absurdity and the strangeness of human existence, I think. And all these novels kind of do that through the supernatural. It's just what I'm into, I guess. Next up is Sing Unburied Sing by Jesmyn Ward. It's a beautiful and a sad novel about a family in Mississippi. It's written in 2017. It's about poverty and about grief and about the legacy of slavery and racism in the United States. I actually just taught this novel for the first time this year. Shout out to my students. Hey, gang. The basic plot is pretty simple. It's about this family in Mississippi, a black family, and the main character, well, there's multiple main characters, but one of them is Jojo, this teenage boy, and then the other main character is Leonie, his mother, and she had Jojo when she herself was just a high school kid. And these two characters have kind of a fraught relationship. Jojo treats Leonie more like an older sister than like a mother. Leonie is arguably kind of a delinquent or disinterested parent. And Jojo has this kind of moving relationship with his grandfather, but his grandfather has sort of a troubled past that's unfolded over the course of the novel. And the basic premise is just that Leonie takes Jojo and her other daughter, Michaela, on this road trip to go pick up their father who's getting out of prison. Their father's name is Michael. He's a white guy, and his family does not accept Leonie and her family because they're virulent racists, honestly. And so the novel in a way is just about this very straightforward event, right? But it's also about trauma, the trauma of the past. It's about grief. Leonie has lost a brother to violence. He was shot and killed. Her father has gone through a traumatic past of his own, and there are actual ghosts in this novel. Again, with the supernatural. And I think the ghosts, this came up in our class discussions actually, that this novel is probably in conversation with Toni Morrison's Beloved, if you're familiar with Beloved, because that's also a novel that is about the trauma and the legacy of racism in the United States. And one of the images that Morrison uses to talk about that is haunting and ghosts. And I think Ward she's following that playbook. And maybe I'll just issue the caution, there is a fair bit of domestic violence in this novel, but I think it's really important because this novel is really visceral. It's about the body, and partly it's about the racialized body, but it's also about I think the way that care and love for one another often manifests itself at the sight of the body. It's about feeding one another and sheltering one another and holding one another. So it's a very physical novel. Last one, The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. It could be my favorite novel. It's up there. Once again, weird mystical stuff happens. This novel is about a beautiful young man who a painter named Basil takes Dorian as his muse, basically.
I was Josh Safdie's muse when he wrote Uncut Gems. Right.
And Basil paints this beautiful portrait of Dorian, and Dorian sees it and like kind of goes nuts, like sells his soul to the painting. Is that what happens? There's a kind of transaction that takes place where Dorian wishes that he envies the painting because the painting is going to remain beautiful while Dorian himself, the real Dorian, is going to age and die. And he makes this wish in front of the painting that I wish the painting could grow old and that I would stay young and beautiful forever. And then it happens. Through some unexplained process, Dorian does become eternally young. And we might think this is kind of a gift, but it turns out to be a sort of curse. Dorian is manipulated by this friend of Basil's named Lord Henry, and he becomes obsessed with sensations, with pleasure and beauty and art. And he becomes a kind of amoral or immoral monster. What he discovers is whenever he does something cruel or wicked or self-serving, that wickedness, that vice is registered on the painting, which he keeps in his home. So the painting will grimace and sneer and becomes scarred and marked and ultimately disfigured by Dorian's wicked life. It's like a physical representation of the state of his soul. He can actually see it, like look upon it, and it doesn't change him. Wilde is a beautiful writer. I think a lot of people, it's the importance of being earnest. That's probably the thing that most people associate with Oscar Wilde and most people read. But for my money, Dorian Gray this is the book. This novel, it was written in 1890, but then it was republished in 1891. And in that second edition, Wilde actually adds a preface to the novel, and it's filled with all these great, like, Oscar Wildeisms. No artist has ethical sympathies. An ethical sympathy in an artist is an unpardonable mannerism of style. It is the spectator and not life that art really mirrors. All art is quite useless. So Wilde makes all these curious statements about art and about the role of the artist and the relationship between art and ethics. And it seems at the outset, this is in this little short, almost like manifesto, that he's suggesting, well, there is no, art is not a moral thing, and to read into it or find morality in it is wrong. But then he proceeds to write a novel that is very much about the relationship between morality and art. In fact, it's like art that corrupts Dorian in a certain sense, both in the form of this painting, which seems to destroy him, and also throughout he's influenced by plays and by poison books. There's also a way in which Dorian Gray, I've said this before, is one of the first monster novels. This novel was written around the same time as a work like Bram Stoker's Dracula, for example. Dorian he's a kind of monster. So there you go. All these books are weird. I like weird books, apparently, and weirdness. I need to reflect a little on why am I like this? My name is Dr. Moore. I teach great books at St. Thomas University. If you're looking for more to read, you want more suggestions, you can find another video on that over here, where I talk a bit more about great books and how to get started reading the greats, the canon, all the best stuff. Check it out. Thanks very much. Talk soon.